I'm happy to have another Indian here with us. He's actually a chemical engineer with a PhD. Quite an interesting topic, I'm sure. We have with us Soham Shah. Let's listen to him. Over to you, Soham.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I've read your work for a while, and so it's quite an opportunity to get to speak to you. I just want to share about how I thought of getting a PhD, how the journey was, how I see myself as a person with a PhD having to with the responsibility of communicating science with people who might not have scientific backgrounds, and just the need to be curious. I grew up in Mumbai and had like some of the privileges that like urban so people who call themselves middle class, I guess, in India have, and so there was quite a few early nudges towards like learning science and like just heading in that direction. I remember I was in like seventh or eighth standard, and I had the opportunity to go meet a astronaut from NASA. Her name is Mae Jameson, and it was just like a very fascinating talk. And growing up, I read books about space travel and dinosaurs. So those were like some nudges towards enjoying science and just, understanding what it is and just like learning about our place in the universe. So uh, it was like a lot of Indian people who are oriented towards science end up just taking engineering, and then just everyone advises you should try and get into IIT. So I got caught in that trap as well. I tried my hand at getting into IIT, and I ended up deciding to go elsewhere. And so I joined the Institute of Chemical Technology in Mumbai. And from there, uh, there was a lot of exposure to research and in chemical engineering. I met a lot of people who were doing their PhDs or considering doing their PhDs. And so that was my exposure into, hey, this is a path that we can go. And if I'm someone who enjoys research and science, that this is something I should explore. And then from there, I joined Dr. Mathur.
You're saying science, but it's actually engineering that you did. And I differentiate between science and engineering, right?
There is some differentiation, but I mean, there are sciences that go hand in hand, right? Engineering is taking the principles of science and applying them
Yeah.
in creating technologies.
Yeah, they go
And
hand in
so,
hand, but the pure scientists are different from the practical engineers. That the people I know. Okay. When you talk to somebody with a PhD in physics, they have no clue of what to
I think
do
I've
with
lost
it.
you.
So anyway, go ahead. So you were saying you were in the Institute of Chemical Technology, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So from there, I went to University of California and Riverside. Um, I was fortunate to be the first person to join my lab. So I got to be the one who was setting up the lab with my advisor. And so that was an interesting experience. Um, we built the lab from scratch. There was absolutely nothing when we started, and then putting all the equipment in, making sure it was working, understanding how it worked, doing all the documentation that's required for that. So that's even within people who take PhDs, this is a rather unique experience.
Yeah, definitely. And is it
Uh,
flourishing now, that department? There are many students with for PhD?
it's a medium-sized department, I guess. There are other departments I've seen that are larger, but I think there's also advantages of like having like a small cohort, you people group together, and there's a lot of camaraderie that you can develop
Yeah.
in that
Okay.
smaller group.
So you badly need that in a PhD.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Your fellow graduate students are your like fellow journey people in that, and you need them. You need those relationships to like even grow and do research. So I entered my PhD with the expectation that I'm just going to be like studying science and just doing experiments in the lab, and that's what is going to be my primary skill set. But it was actually finding out that doing a PhD is like uh, experimentation is only like a very core and like a small part of the skills that you learn, and there's a lot more to learn beyond that. So um, in India, you don't really get work with your hand and like fix things. I got to do that a lot in my PhD, just like building things, fixing things, putting them together, just like working with hands. That was like new to me. Um, I got to teach, I got to mentor, I got to lead, I got to write a lot of research papers. Uh, in India, a lot of the writing we do is like it's like rote learning and um, writing long answers to questions in exams, but this is like ha- expressing your research work and what you understand from the science and what you've read in the background and putting that together and writing your own research paper was like a great moment of learning. And I got to meet a lot of like undergraduate students and high school students who were interested in doing research. And so the university had programs for them to join research labs, and then I could mentor them. And so I got to see a lot of my mentee students go on to have like interesting careers and or join graduate school themselves. And so just living vicariously through them and like seeing them become scientists and engineers is gives me a lot of more joy than like my own successes do.
Mhm.
And so that was my PhD journey for the most part. In the middle of that, we got COVID. So like the whole world did. And so that was a different transition altogether. And so like how we manage the lab during COVID, and it's like avoiding physical contact for like the first few months. Like you can't be in the lab with other people, but you still have to like coordinate. That was like an interesting challenge to have. So during COVID, I got to see there was like within the US and also in India, there was like a lot of like skepticism towards science, and like just like in the general public there was a like, lot of confusion, misinformation, misunderstanding. And so uh, that was a moment of realization that um, as people who are studying science and as students of science, as people who practice science, that we have a responsibility towards society about communicating what we understand from science. So my background in research has nothing to do with medicine or COVID or vaccines. Yet I had, to the degree that I could understand what I read about the science of the vaccines, um, I tried explaining it to the people who are near and dear to me about how it works and why it was necessary to take vaccines, things like that. Um, but it is widespread. And so one of the things that I want to do going ahead is just like working on science communication and like just talking to people about how interesting science is and like the wonderful things that we can learn.
Okay, but that was not part of your PhD, obviously, but just your COVID activity.
Uh, it was not directly a part of my PhD, but there were science communication programs at the university where you could like take part and like learn about communicating science to like non-scientists. And so I think I would encourage people who might be science and are pursuing careers in STEM to at least dedicate, even if it's to a family or friends, but um, make practice of communicating science to an audience beyond your peers.
Okay. Right. So then when your PhD ended, what happened?
So I completed my PhD about a year ago, so rather towards the end of 2022. And then after that, I've joined Intel Corporation, where they make semiconductors. So I work in the fab. I work somewhere in the corner of their process of making um, wafers, uh, and just like using my background as an engineer and helping make the most cutting edge um, semiconductors.
Yeah. So this is the chip war. The,
Yeah, so it's an interesting time to be in semiconductors. That was not my background again, completely different space than I'm used to. So just like learning new things from scratch and like being put in like a new space, meeting new people, learning new skills. It's challenging. Um, going like through university and then later in graduate school, you're like taking your time to learn, and there's like a environment around you that's built for learning. Here in a corporation, um, no, you're learning on the fly and you're like delivering as you go, and so the pace of learning is in itself a challenge of its own.
yeah. 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 There's, you don't have the space of time and anything. Just have to get it done right away, right? Especially this is a very competitive time for chips. So obviously you can't afford to waste any time.
Oh yes. So it's an interesting time to be here. With everything that's going on in the world, I felt like this is a good opportunity to come here and learn a lot. It's competitive, it's fast, and it feels like the world is watching this company.
So do they have their own fab? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they do. That's where I work.
Okay, amazing. All right. I mean,
So
because
going inside the clean room every day, or well, as often as I do, and just like looking at those massive machines that produce like the most interesting technology in the world is just like fascinating. And it's I sometimes forget the one day I was just a kid in Mumbai and today I work here.
yeah, you forget that the time difference between them. So who am I? What am I doing here? Right?
Absolutely,
Yeah, all of us have that feeling because we tend to remember where we started from and how the hell have we ended up here. So
absolutely.
yeah, okay. But are you enjoying it?
Uh, there are good days, there are bad days, and so you try and learn along as you go. Just like focus on what you need to do, and just ask for help when you need to. That's one of the lessons that I've learned recently is that you really don't have answers to a lot of the questions that come before you. And um, one of the skills that's important as an engineer is like finding answers from people who might have those answers.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a very valuable thing you have just said.
Absolutely.
That there are no answers that are readily available. You have to create them.
Right.
You are at the cutting edge. Okay, any tips for younger people?
So there are mentors everywhere. You need to find them. Uh, there are people are absolutely willing to help. And there's nothing that interests a person more than just like speaking about themselves. Look at me right now.
All right.
So go find mentors, ask them what they do, how they got there, and just learn.
Mm.
Even if it's something completely other than what you do, if it's
Mhm.
beyond your domain of expertise,
Mhm.
or you just don't understand what they're doing, just like ask them about themselves and how they got there, and people will answer. Sometimes they're busy, sometimes they'll get back to you later, but people want to help more than you think you do.
Okay. And what about your own future? How do you see it? Any thought?
Um, that is a conversation I have with myself every day,
Okay.
and it's an answer that I kind of evolves every day. So uh, I'm not sure how it's going to be. So just taking it a day at a time.
Okay, fine. I mean, you have a reasonably good job, not reasonably good. You have a very good job, and you have a degree which is a very good degree. So I think, in that sense, you are all set. The only thing is, what are your choices at this point? But if you don't have the answers, good enough. Not no, very few people have answers even at that age. I mean,
Right.
uh,
So that's again another lesson that I've learned in life. So when I was in undergrad, I thought I was at one of the best universities in India, and then I must be incredibly smart to be here. And then I
yeah,
got a PhD, and then I understood there is so much more that I don't know,
yeah,
and just like the universe is a vast, vast place,
yeah.
and we are tiny.
By the way, is this AI anything in your field or is still not there?
No, so my background is not in AI. Again, I did research in something called catalysis. So it was creating materials that enable chemical reactions to happen.
Yeah, yeah, we understand catalysis, but
And
I'm saying, is AI going to affect your business?
yes, so coming from there, like I had no background in like AI or even semiconductors, and so I am learning as I go. But uh, what we do as work is enabling the infrastructure that underlies AI. So uh, the semiconductors are going to be the physical devices that help create and make AI go faster.
Yeah,
And so, yes, we are in the heart of the AI economy, I guess. And
yeah, because
so,
you make the hardware on which AI runs.
absolutely,
And the faster your hardware runs, the better AI can be.
yes.
That I think it stands to reason that, you know. And by the way, these days there's fears that this AI will gobble so much electricity that the whole country will be worried about where to get it from and how. So, we all don't just need them to be fast. I think we also need them to be somewhat energy efficient so that we don't create this.
So, yeah, I think that's a wonderful point that you bring up. So, yes, we need the hardware to that runs AI to be more efficient, but also regards to energy, it kind of makes the challenge of like transitioning to renewables even more important. And so, um, the sun and wind are essentially infinite sources of energy, and if we can just like scale them up faster, we can solve the problem of climate change with that.
Okay. All right.
And so,
Anything else you want to add here?
I want to end things with a quote. If It's like an excerpt from a poem, and feel free to guess who wrote this.
Okay.
Um, uh, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my father, that my country awake. Do you know who wrote this? It's a Rabindranath Tagore. So I found this. It's a beautiful poem.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
encourage people to read the whole thing,
Yeah.
but it just reminds you that eh, I know you write a lot about how India is progressing and how it ought to progress, and so
Yeah.
given that subject and given that that's what you write about, I thought this was appropriate.
Well, it is appropriate, no question. Yeah. But I did not know it, to be honest. I
Right,
thought it might be Mahatma Gandhi, but I knew it can't be. But Tagore is just next to Mahatma Gandhi. So I
right.
think it's okay. Good. All right. Anything else from you?
No, I just stay curious, enjoy learning,
Okay.
and feel free to reach out to me if there are questions about doing a PhD.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'll be back with another expert or a young person. Until then, let's say bye.